Hey there, my friends. How's it going, YouTube land? I'm a random guy on the internet making videos. Listen to what I have to say because it's more important than what the other people have to say. That's a joke, of course. You know, sometimes I have a weird sense of humor that often I rarely show on my channel. Sometimes an absurd or disgusting sense of humor, but often it's just kind of a dry, joking sarcasm. And when I ride out the sarcasm and don't specify, people like take me seriously. I made a video a while back about I said I found the answer to life, and then the whole video, it was like 4 minutes long, and I was like, I figured it out. It's all about money. Make as much money as you can, and forget people, forget family and friends. And it was a little total, obviously sarcastic rant, and somebody took it seriously. They're like, I hope you're not serious, but I found that that's not the answer, and I realized just how ignorant some people are. I guess ignorant isn't the right word. Gullible, or, you know, unable to determine sarcasm or whatnot. So it makes me seem more like a serious person when I'm very far from serious. I'm kind of a joker. But I do have a serious side, and that's what I display on YouTube, because that's the side that I find important to share. Because the serious side, you know, the fun side is one thing, but the serious side is what we all share, the thing that we have the most angst. In other words, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what's fun. Like, entertainment, the whole entertainment industry, and that's kind of what I was pointing to when I was joking, like, look at me, look at my video. That's what YouTube has turned into. That's what many of these platforms have turned into. What I guess they've always been. A place for people to share. But those who share the most absurd and weird and odd things always shine through. It's the reason why commercials have always been weirder and weirder over the years. I mean, you know, for example, my wife's niece came over the other day and brought her daughter over, and during the conversation she was saying, oh, we were talking about absurd things, and she was saying, have you seen that commercial from like Gushers? It was the Gushers candy or fruit snacks or whatever. I was like, no, I don't have TV and I don't watch commercials for that reason. So she showed my wife the commercial, and she's like, why would they make something that weird? And I'm like, because you'll come over and show it to us. That's why. Because it's working. The fact that you are advertising for this company by seeing the absurdity, well, that's kind of how this whole, like, I'm not going to name any big YouTubers, but that's kind of the name of the game on YouTube and elsewhere. And the internet in general is like, hey, call out, look at me, I can make my impact. And I'm no different, except I stand in the corner, and I hope to that people know that I'm here just to share my thoughts and ideas that I think will help people in a way. Not always. Sometimes it's just my personal journal. But today I've spent the first few minutes just rambling, but, you know, I've been in a rut over the last, you know, little while, I guess. I can't really determine exactly how long. They come and go. And for me, determining what it means to be in a rut is a very subjective thing. And as you all know, if you follow my channel, I recently got a school bus, which I'm sitting in right now. I just put up a tapestry, and it's cool because it's got the magnetic roof, so I can just stick up a couple of tacks, or a couple of magnets, and just put up sheets wherever I want, and that's going to be part of the final design. I've got the flooring over here I'm putting in and everything, but the bus brought me some excitement. And it really got me thinking, because I know there are other priorities. Like I mentioned this in the video, there's other things that I could do. But if I don't do the things that make me happy, then it's just going through the motions. And that's what getting in a rut is sometimes. It's about just going through the motions and getting stuck in the same old routine every day. And I know when it wears on me when I wake up in the morning and I kind of worry about things. And I have transmuted, if you will, my stress over the years. When I was in my early 30s, and right before I started my channel, really, maybe during my early days on the channel, I was pretty stressed out. I'd wake up with anxiety, and I consider butterflies in my stomach anxiety. I learned how to suppress that shit, push it way, way back down there, and, you know, get it out of my mind, because stress is a useless thing in today's society unless it motivates you. So if it's something you can do something about, use it, you know, but otherwise let it go. As someone described it, it was the circle of influence and the circle of concern. The circle of influence are things that you stress that you can do something about. And then there's the circle of concern, which are things like people who are into conspiracies and Illuminati and worry about New World Order and spend a lot of time dedicated into things that they can never really prove or do anything about. Not to say that people aren't out there saving the day, that's great, but most people, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we get sucked into things that we're not sure about because it's easier than taking action and doing something because we don't know what to do. That's part of what I'm getting at. We live in a society where we don't know what the hell to do. We don't know what we're supposed to do. You know, at least in the past when you were bullshit and spoon-fed religion, at least people could just believe it and go along with it and say and have an enjoyable life and say, well, I'm doing my best and I'm going to go to heaven. Hey, that's great. Ignorance is bliss. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But I do know that as in my life, I'll never believe in a specific religion. I know that life in the universe and existence is much more complicated. I'm not going to go as far as to say I'm an existentialist or anything, but I really ponder the reason for life quite often. Not trying to find out the answer. Don't get me wrong. See, that leads nowhere. If you're trying to figure out the answer to life or some big question, you're never going to find it, in my opinion, unless you decide to settle on something. So for me, it's an utter curiosity, you know, of wandering through the maze and saying, ooh, is this a dead end or does this lead somewhere else? So, to not get too far off track, part of the hardest thing for me is I've never felt like I fit in. And I've talked to so many people who feel that way. I think everyone feels that way. I really do. You know, I mean, when people say, yeah, you know, they use that as kind of a crutch, like, well, I never really fit in, I was always kind of a loner. We all are kind of loners. I know that there are people who, in high school, that's when it seems the most impressionable. When you find yourself and you set your standards for who you are, you think, well, you know, I'm the skater, or I'm the goth, or the stoner, or, which I was like I wasn't a goth, but I went from being like skater to stoner to hippie to all three, skater, stoner, hippie, dude. Cruising down the street with hair down to my ass, you know, all in with tie-dyes. That was just who I was because I didn't fit in anywhere. I created my place to fit in. But still, the jocks at school, the trendy people, and I went to a pretty yuppie school. I happened to be in a rich city, but in a poor part of it. So it was, you know, I did not like the type of people there. But it's kind of that way everywhere. But you feel like the jocks, oh, you know, they're the popular ones. The truth is, we all know that once you leave high school, that's not the truth. But that's implanted in people's heads that, oh, well, I was kind of a loner in high school, so I'm a loner in life. That's not how it has to be. There are so many groups we can join and things we can do to improve our lives and to enjoy it with other people. And I say that not from experience, but because I should have done more. I should have joined more groups over my life. You know, I should have, and that's not to be a member of a group. It always reminds me of this thing that somebody told me. It was a Groucho Marx quote. It's like, I would never be a member of any group that would have me as a member. and that's kind of how I felt about Freemasonry, for example, back in the day. I had somebody trying to get me to join, and I was like, because my grandfather was a master mason. And back then I was into my occult knowledge phase, and I was really like, skeptical of all these different things. But I was curious, and I thought, I don't want to be a part of a group. I know who I am, and I know, for me, I found my own way to get around in life. But still, I understand why people do join groups, because it allows you to really rest your head on someone's shoulder. That's the reason why people are on a sports team, and it's not to show how good you are at sports. It's really not. It's to have a shoulder to cry on, metaphorically. That people want teammates, we want members in our groups, we want friends, and we deserve friends. So we're all kind of confused about life's purpose, so by forming groups we, you know, we find something that works for us. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was the ideals we create for ourselves and how they, you know, a lot of people, I've made so many videos that I've had some of the rudest, most absurd comments. I've had people leave comment after a video talking about deep things in life where it's completely irrelevant to the video, but maybe it's about something I'm wearing. I mean, so shallow that you wouldn't even believe it. Or another one where somebody would just try to tear me apart and troll me about who I am or my past or where I'm going or how I raise my kids or any other number of things. And that may have bothered me 7 years ago when I started my channel, but now I've just learned. My skin is so thick with those people that I just, who are you? But the beauty is that never lose touch, never become numb to your emotions. I can still cry in the morning when I watch a sad story. I'm not like, I'm not immune to laughter or sadness or any of the emotions. I've learned to not let people matter who don't matter. And that's really important, because there will be people you will meet in your life. And this isn't just on the internet, of course. This is family members are the worst. I mean, sometimes. Depends. I know there are a lot of parents out there who like really try to force their kids to be something, and that's the hardest thing to watch for me. It's like the kid wants to fulfill the obligations of the parent, but he just can't quite do it, or doesn't want to do it, but thinks that's the right path. So what I'm getting at is that ideals, or the ideal life for some people, everyone has an idea about how it should be. Say, you should live this way, or you should do this, and they'll point the finger at you your whole life and tell you how you should be living. But you know what? Don't look at your life or their life, but just look at the reality of it. You know, look, are you really happy, and do they seem happy? If you've got a person who seems grumpy and spiteful all the time and has no friends, and they're telling you, oh, well, you need to get with it, and you need to get down and dirty and start working harder, or do this, be like me, you just like laugh at them and say, dude, you're missing life. You're out there working your ass off for what? You know, the only people who are grumpy about how other people should live are the people who know that they're not living up to their own full potential. Because I know when I'm not. I know when I could be doing more, and when I'm satisfied when I've done a good job. But the thing is, ideals only work for a short time because we seek novelty. So when a person says, this is a pattern that works in life, it doesn't always work. Our routines only work so long, and then something happens, an emergency, boom, and then we have to react. In other words, we could be in a mellow state of mind and be in a, a complete meditational trance, and then all of a sudden, our hut catches on fire. What do? You got to jump to action. You got to be flexible. You got to be with it. You got to be ready to move forward with whatever happens. And sometimes you'll get pushed back into a corner, and you'll think, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. There's so much shit that I have to get done. But do you? Really? Think about it. What do you really have to get done in life? I won't even entertain that question because it's very subjective, but novelty takes over. People, they have these ideals about how life should be, and then they get to a point in their life where they have resentment towards, say, maybe they just tried to make something work in life. Maybe it's even a failed marriage they tried to make work for decades. Then they end up resenting their partner. Or maybe they regret not doing a lot of things, so they kind of push that to the back of their mind. We all do some things like this, and we have to be aware of it. So we make justifications for our failures, basically. That we say, oh, well, it's this way, and it should be this way, and everybody should be this way. And that's why parents that have a hard time always push the hardest to tell others how to be parents, I'm a father of 3. I mean, one's 23, one's 8, and one's 5, and they've got quite a difference. My first son is my stepson, and I met my wife when he was 3. So, it was a jump from being non-father to being a father to a 3-year-old, like, instantly. And that was a huge life change. That's one of those things you don't expect. It's one of those things where you might be living a certain way and then something changes. And whether it's for the better or for worse is up to you. But it depends on the situation, of course. For me, it was for the better. Because I know that family is the most important thing to me in my life. But it's still hard. We're all looking for our purpose, and we're all doing it together and as individuals. But not purpose. I'm not talking about a life path or numerology or astrology or any of that. I'm just saying, how do you gauge happiness? How do you really know if you're doing okay? How do you know if you're doing fine and things are going well for you? What is well, It's not all subjective. There are certain things that we can do to better our lives and improve our state of mind, improve our our nature, improve how we really feel. And my thought is that if we're regressing, if we're not bettering ourselves every year, then, we will be miserable. Because life is really about growth. I mean, for me, it's my own thing. I won't even, get into the details of how I find, because I've been through so much. I had the worst diet when I was younger. Only in retrospect can I see the stupid things I was doing as a teenager. And as somebody in my 20s, and then I grew up, but I didn't really grow up. I just grew over. I grew into another state of mind. It's not better or worse. That's what I'm saying. It's okay to be in the state of mind we're in when we're young. It's not about growing up and saying be an adult and grow up and man up and do all these things that are responsible. It's total bullshit. Don't let your, the older generation obviously doesn't have it figured out, or things would be a little more coherent out in society. Because to me, I can't handle it. The reason why I don't fit in, it's not because I don't fit in, it's because the rest of society doesn't fit in to reality. The whole commercialized Hollywood bullshit, you know, I can't stand advertisements. I hate working in even in the industry that I do. I hate selling things. I hate selling anything, even if it's something I have a passion for, because then I feel like, you know, you're always having to deal with the snotty people, you know, and you have to. You always find that the customers who, you know, some of the most needy ones end up, you know, there's a certain type of person that you start to meet over a period of time, and then you have to also deal with your own family life, and you have to deal with the business, and people have demands and whatnot. But it's not that I don't like being a merchant, it's just that it's not for me. I was the same way when I was a carpenter. You know why? It's not because I didn't like carpentry, it's because I couldn't ask the customer for the bill. I always underbid myself, screwed myself over. I've done that my whole life. And it's because maybe I used to think, well, I'm just a nice guy, maybe, I don't know, maybe money's not that important, but I think I'm just kind of a pushover in a lot of ways. You know, so I've had to kind of take my alpha role, if you will, back from nature by, you know, being a little more forcive and saying, this is my life. I live it. I'm not going to let other people cause me any type of, like, you know, wariness or fear because I don't want to appear a certain way. Because I think we all do that when we're younger and we grow up and we think we don't want to, you know, we learn that you still have to have an ego, you still have to be a human, you still have to be respectful to one another, but you don't have to put up with each other's bullshit. And I call out bullshit where I see it. So if I'm full of shit, fine, so be it. I know I'm full of shit in some ways. That's okay. It's just, that's part of life. It's the same way we're all full of shit. We're all just trying to figure this out together, you know? So hopefully the way that we're going in our lives, however different you and I may be, or you and your parents, or you and your kids, you know, that we can all just get along, man. Because it's really important that we don't cause stress to each other. In a world where we've worked for, you know, tens of thousands of years to try to create this, what we call civilization, and even though it's imperfect, we should at least take the positive aspects of it and really acknowledge that we live in a place that's relatively safe in the West here, in the US, and stop pretending like, you know, we have to be overprotective and defensive all the time. Just take a chill pill, you know, enjoy life, try to do something with it, you know, enjoy it. You know, I've spent a lot of time worrying and stressing on life, and so I'm not sitting here telling other people, don't worry because you shouldn't worry. I'm saying don't worry because I've worried, you know. Don't get yourself into a predicament where you're, you know, trying to figure out, should I or shouldn't I do this? Just do it. Kind of like with the bus thing, just buy it. Just buy a bus, you know. So it's just like, my wife kept saying that. My wife is my inspiration, you know. She's like, she's the one who, she works her ass off, and she, you know, in the days when she's home, I'm working my ass off to try to, you know, get my business done on specific days as much as I can. And on the days when we're together, the moments in the summer, we cherish that. We go to concerts, festivals, whatever. Now we're going to be able to take a bus. We've been talking about it for years, and finally we just did it. It wasn't that much money. I mean, people spend 40 grand on a new car. We spent, you know, $3,000 on this thing. You know, it's not that much. We'll put a little more into it by the time we're done, of course, but it's something, it's not just about having an automobile. It's a passion project for both of us as partners, you know, and as a family, all of us. So it's a good thing to be alive. It's a good thing to embrace our strengths and weaknesses and acknowledge it's okay not to fit in. What's important is that we fit in certain ways to one another. We're not always going to relate 100% to other people once we really get to know them. And I'm sure there's something about every person you know that bugs you. At least one little thing about them. And that's okay. That's what makes us human. So whatever bugs you about me, sorry. I'm just who I am. You know, that's the world we live in. And we can only try to improve it through our own actions and be better people to others, but also to ourselves, and don't put ourselves down and punish ourselves. To take charge and really enjoy life as much as possible, because we will get stuck in ruts. Not just like ruts in life over a period of months, but ruts over, you know, maybe once a week on a certain day, a rut day, or a rut hour time during the day. So, you know, as now with the, I think daylight savings times tonight, if I'm not mistaken, spring forward, right? So move our clocks forward an hour, and that'll, a lot of people talk about that screwing you up. It's kind of like a psychological thing, But anyhow, I digress. I will let you all go. Thanks for watching, and I'm not going to go into the whole end of the video stuff that people say, because I just don't do that. I want to show you my floor, though. Those are the first few pieces of laminate. I haven't put in the pad yet, so I'll pull them back up, but it's getting there.